Very nice to see a lot of people from the Pacific, especially the representatives from our bitterest enemies in the rugby field, Tonga and Fiji. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for the invitation to speak to you this morning. You must forgive me if I stray outside the confines of what we know as archive or digital archive and have a look at some of the evidence we see around us in the Pacific and other parts of the world. When I was asked to address your meeting, I wondered why I was chosen, as I don't know a lot about archives or the history of their development in the Pacific. However, I quickly realized that your work and mine has a lot in common. It is true that I have no technical expertise in running an archive, whether it is in a library or a ministry, and I have no formal training in this field. But as a writer, an editor, and a Samoan Matai, I understand how important it is to promote and protect the knowledge that we have. Archives may have changed in their use of technology and the quality of training given to people such as you here in Samoa for your 14th conference. Despite these changes, the basic idea is the same today as it was well before we developed a written language. People needed a way to share knowledge and over time be able to store it and gain access to it later so that they could build on their understanding of the world around them. The dictionary gives the meaning of archive as a place where public records and documents are kept. Examples are the Land and Titles Court in Samoan, Land and Survey Department, the Police, the Legislative Department, and the Health Department. The latest archives use digital technologies such as you see in our computers and websites, where we use those tiny things called flash drives. Yet that very word, digital, gives away the origin of the digital revolution, the digits, or the fingers on our own hands. We use them much the same way today to show us where we're going and why we're doing it. It also proves that whatever technology there is, and no matter how advanced it is, it cannot function without the human element or human control. You mustn't put it on autopilot and walk away. You must look after it. The development of our Pacific archives dates back to the very first Pacific communities in our region. We didn't call them archives in those days, but we knew what they were and why they were important. Our archives in the earliest days of settlement are nearly the same as they are today. They are physical, verbal, and virtual. Our physical archives can be seen in the Lapita pottery, carefully shaped hundreds of years ago or more by our ancestors. The Lapita design is so distinctive that scientists and researchers have used it very successfully to trace our journeys in the world's biggest ocean. The Pulembele Mount at Paloli, Savaii in Samoa. Is another good example of a physical archive. The Ha'amonga, is that right? Ha'amonga. The Ha'amonga and the flying foxes of Tonga, the firewalkers of Fiji, the pyramids of Egypt, the Stonehenge of England, the Great Wall of China, the rock statues of Easter Island, and the Taj Mahal of India. I have visited the Stonehenge in England and the Taj Mahal in India. They are awesome man-made wonders of the world. These cannot be filed away as records and documents. They are there as evidence for all of us to see and learn from. The Taj Mahal is just amazing. It's an expression of a man's love for his wife. We men here this morning can learn a lot from this love story. And what of our carvings, our woven items, or traditional Pacific architecture, and the countless handicrafts from different island groups, or the tau o pea, our traditional tattooing in Samoa and other Pacific island groups. Surely these are archives. A lot of these are lost forever, banned by the missionaries years ago. In 1980, a Marquesan man came to Samoa, and the Samoan tattoo artist Suluape did a Marquesan tattoo on him, from the neck to the ankles and to the wrists. Because no one in the Marquesas knew how to do it anymore, they came to Samoa. They brought with them photos of a Marquesan tattoo preserved in the museums in Paris and Berlin. Suluape studied these before he did the tattoo on the young man. It was done at Asi Aikeni's house at Wailima, and I took photographs of the event. We also have verbal archives that make full use of the oral traditions of people who, until fairly recently, had no written language. The spoken word is our first library. We made the words physical later on when we learned our ABC and how to put them down on paper. That's why it is very important what the New Zealand Maoris are doing now, trying to save the language. Because the language is a loaded archive of cultural experiences and history. Lose it, and you lose your identity. Our own island people in New Zealand are writing against New Zealand's plan to stop publishing school readers in our island languages. I was involved in the production of island readers some years ago. New Zealand, I believe, has a law which says that anyone who publishes a book in New Zealand must deposit a copy of that book with the National Library for its archive. As we talk of the spoken word as our first library, I wonder if we can briefly look at the Samoan word tonga fiti. It's made up of two words, tonga and fiti. The names of the two small islands, countries just south of us, which are our fiercest enemies on the rugby field. Use this word negatively, it means a scheme or trap set by the Tongans and the Fijians to catch Samoans and kill them in the past. Used positively, it means a cure for your health problems or a solution to a problem, like Tomafiti for your high blood pressure. The word must have been coined by a Samoan. It is often used by the church ministers when they talk about the trap set by King Herod's queen to kill John the Baptist. The bait for the trap was 16-year-old dancing in front of drunken men. That's a Tomafiti. You know, you can never trust these Tongans in Fiji. When they team up against us peace-loving Samoans. A verbal library can be heard in the speeches of the elders, the chanting of village choirs, and the laughter of young children. All of this is a lesson in learning. And what of our virtual archives? This didn't start with computers or with digital technology. Think of our imagination, our creating mind, our capacity for the most amazing imagery. And then remember that we can share all of this in one form or another. Like when they invited me to read some of my stories and poems at Pacific Week at the Commonwealth Institute in London in 1988, where I read this little one titled Freedom and Innocence. The little child picks dahlia seeds in front of the Prime Minister's office, where big black cars and Land Cruisers stand for hours unused, still paid for without taxes. The little child pulls up the front of his ear and watches as he pees on the tire of a big black car with an official number plate, oblivious to the giggles of prisoners of a down group. Man, what freedom, what innocence to be able to urinate right there. I was in Suva, Fiji in 1986 for the publication of my first book of short stories in Samoan. It was published jointly by the Institute of Pacific Studies of the USP in Suva, the USP Center in Apia, and the National University of Samoa. One evening, some of my friends took me to their house and we had a sing-song. Someone played a guitar, and Konai Thaman, the Tongan lady academic who is now a professor at the USP Suva, said to me, "Apelu, sing a Samoan song," and I'd get up and dance the siva. So I started the song, "Otele fia manatu, fia fiora somafua." I don't want to remember an evening on a Monday. Others joined in. I can tell you, Konai was just beautiful in her rendition of the Samoan siva, that when I returned to my room that night, I wrote the following poem. Konai, daughter of my song. The strings of the guitar dance in my fingers, and my song echoes from wall to wall. Sound waves crashing in the middle and spill over outward like a volcano. A woman giving birth to a mermaid. Like a slow motion rocket rising from its launching pad, you arise with a smile, your hands dance to my music. your beautiful body swaying to the notes of my song. Am I Sven Valley? Am I Peter Pan? No, just Polynesian man. And are you Tongan? Are you Samoan? No, your song has just given birth to Konai. She's a very nice person. Whether our Pacific archive is physical, verbal, or virtual is one thing. How to ensure our archives are safe and secure as well as affordable, practical, and user-friendly is another. This remains one of the challenges for you and for those who rely on your services. Your industry also needs qualified people who are committed to achieving a very high quality of service and who build effective partnerships with other stakeholders. It is good to see how your organization is focused on raising standards, sharing experiences, and of promoting excellence. You must also deal with increasing volume of material. The information technology revolution generates so much information now that it is very easy to simply transfer a mountain of paperwork into computerized rubbish dumps. Information on its own is useless unless we can use it. We might not be able to use it all immediately, but we must have the ability to search for particular information one day and find it quickly and efficiently. No technology is perfect, but they all have their place. I hope that you are not going to turn your archives into some kind of very tiny James Bond gadgets which you can put in your pocket and take home and then use them. Did I see some this morning? Who's that? When I was studying in London in 1974, we were taken to see the computer which kept all the material for the correspondence school. Believe me, the computer was as big as my house. Compared to these little things now, you can load so much into a very small flash drive and put it in your pocket. So much goes on these days that it is good to know that someone, such as the people sitting here today, is responsible for protecting, promoting, and preserving our knowledge. That's your function. Mine as a writer is to record what I see. I watch people like you, church ministers and their wives, old people, and the teenagers and others. I observe life. It is a very interesting study and hobby. In 1982, my sons took me to the most popular nightclub in the center of Apia, the Go-Go Club. The boys wanted to cheer me up as I was going through some personal problems. It was the first time ever that I had been to a nightclub. Later that week, I wrote the following poem. At the Go-Go Club. I watch you dance at the Go-Go Club. Sisters to other boys, brothers to other girls, smoke and guns the ghosts of you who look so different in daylight. Eyes to eyes fixed unblinking, hands touching and body swaying. No beds needed for close caressing. Already you're wet all over from face, bosom and thighs. Mama doesn't know you're sitting on your feet, music urging you on. His shirt half over her dress proud. They fan the young fires together. At the tables you play with your fingers on knees and thighs nobody can see, but I can tell it in your eyes. Mouse butterflies dance to flickering lights and Satan's roaring delight. While the pastor sleeps, doesn't want to enter your house of pleasure and be tainted with your other life. On Sunday you enter the Pharisee like good sons and daughters all in white. But on Friday night, but on Friday night your body obeys the call of the wild, and you explode in action till your body aches and your eyes say, "Take me now." The Go-Go Club, the Go-Go Club is not there anymore, but I'm recording what I have seen there in poetry. Poetry is an archive. It has been used to record events in the life of a people going back to ancient times. The Bible, an archive in itself, is full of poetry, especially the books of Psalms, Ruth, Job, the Proverbs, the Songs of Solomon, and others. The poem I just read follows in the style of the Songs of Solomon. Poetry was used extensively by Shakespeare. The reason, as you know, is that it is easy for people to memorize and remember. I'm sure everyone in this room has memorized something from Shakespeare. There were no books or archives as we know them now in ancient times. The people were the archives. They pass on from one generation to another in their oral tradition and their speeches, songs and dances, their beliefs, their hopes, love, fear, struggle, and so on. These are some of the things that you are storing now in your digital archives. Ladies and gentlemen, it is very important for us all that you succeed in your work.